The Apostle Paul wrote this letter to the Christians living in the busy, cosmopolitan city of Corinth. Paul stayed in Corinth during his second missionary journey and helped establish a congregation there. During his third missionary journey, evidently while in Ephesus, Paul received a letter as well as disturbing reports about the congregation in Corinth. It was about 55 CE when Paul wrote to the Corinthians to address these matters. 1 Corinthians contains 16 chapters. In chapters 1 to 4, Paul corrects the Corinthians' divisive thinking and exhorts them to be united. Paul reasons that it is unimportant who plants or who waters, because God makes things grow. In chapters 5 and 6, Paul addresses the serious matter of sexual immorality. There is an unrepentant wrongdoer among them. This man must be removed to protect the congregation. The congregation is urged to flee from sexual immorality. Chapter 7 provides balanced counsel regarding both singleness and marriage. In chapters 8 to 10, we learn that sometimes we should lovingly refrain from doing what we may have a right to do, so that we do not stumble others or hinder people from accepting the good news. Did you know? The Isthmian Games were held every 2 years near Corinth. Drawing on this familiar situation, Paul used the illustration of running a race to help the congregation in Corinth to understand the need for faithfulness and endurance. In chapter 11, Paul gives direction concerning the Lord's evening meal. In chapter 12, Paul likens the congregation to the human body to show that each member is important. Jehovah is pleased when we cooperate with one another unitedly. Chapter 13 describes how love acts and how it does not act. Chapter 14 explains that congregation meetings should be orderly and harmonious. In chapter 15, we find confirmation that the resurrection hope is certain. Paul refers to fulfilled prophecy as well as eyewitness accounts of Jesus' resurrection. He explains that victory over sin and death comes through the ransom sacrifice of Jesus Christ. In chapter 16, Paul gives direction regarding the collection for the impoverished Christians in Jerusalem. As you read 1 Corinthians, note how true Christians should remain united, how the congregation should uphold Jehovah's moral standards, and how belief in the resurrection of Jesus is fundamental to our receiving kingdom blessings.